Now, with regards to physical properties of substances class, they can be classified into three main types. We have colligative, additive, and constitutive. Okay, yung mga physical properties, especially of our drugs. Now, when we talk about colligative properties class, this one depends on the number of particles in a solution. Kumbaga, how does the number of particles in a solution or a compound affects its physical properties? So the values are approximately the same for equal concentrations of different non-electrolytes in a solution, regardless of the species or chemical nature of constituents. Now, example of colligative properties class would be osmotic pressure, vapor pressure lowering, freezing point depression, or boiling point elevation. Now, all of this class, don't worry, we'll be talking about this in more details in our succeeding lessons. But what I want you to know, class, is that when we talk about colligative physical properties, it usually depends on the number of particles present, okay, in a solution. Let's say, for example, bigyan ko lang kayo ng halimbawa. Sorry, guys, medyo mag-overtime lang ako ng konti lang, ha. Malapit na ito matapos, don't worry. Okay, osmosis. This one, class, is very dependent on the number of solute particles in a solution. Let's say, for example, class, this is a semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable membrane. Okay? So, kunwari, class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 solute particles ang dito sa side ng semi-permeable membrane. Sa side na to, kunwari, dalawa lang. 2 solutes. 2 molecules of the solute. Now, class, obviously, dahil dalawa lang ang solute molecules dito, ano magiging direction ng water molecules natin? Will it go to the right or go to the left? Will it go to the right or go to the left? Ang water natin. Right, palitan natin ng color to. Okay. So, water. So, saan class ang patutunguhan ng ating tubig? Okay? Sige, mukhang hindi kayo sure. Now, class, how does osmosis work? Di ba sabi natin, class, osmosis work, or, dito, osmosis is very dependent, class, on the total number of solute that's separated by the semi-permeable membrane. Now, a water molecule, class, H2O, would usually move from an area of less concentration to an area of higher concentration. Kasi ano ba ang goal, class, ng water? Ang goal ni water is always to dilute. Okay? To make sure that the concentrations in both sides of the membrane is equal. Okay? Until it achieves equilibrium. So, ang gagawin ngayon ni water, class, is going to go to the right. Si water kasi can cross the semi-permeable membrane, but the solutes cannot. Okay? So, therefore, ang gagawin ni water, patungo siya dito. Now, of course, class, the higher the solute concentration, ano mangyayari sa osmotic pressure? Tataas to. Mas tataas ang pressure kasi ibig sabihin, water will try to dilute that, this other side of the, okay? Yung side na to, itatry ni water is dilute yan as much as possible, as fast as it can. So therefore, class, dito ngayon nagpe-play yung number of particles. Okay? Wherein the more particles there are in the other side of the semi-permeable membrane, the higher will be the osmotic pressure that the water creates. Okay? I hope naintindihan niyo yun. Okay naman ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay na? Okay.
Yes, po.
Alright. So, yun siya, class. So, basta tandaan nyo, class, water will always try to dilute solutes. Okay, so if it's separated by a semi-permeable membrane, si water lang ang gagalaw, hindi si solute. Now, class, kung wala tong semi-permeable membrane na to, kung wala yan, obviously, ang principle na tatakbo ngayon dito would be diffusion. Okay, from an area of high concentration going to an area of lesser concentration. So, tandaan nyo lang, class, what separates osmosis from diffusion is the presence of that semi-permeable membrane. Right? Additive naman depends on the total contribution of the atoms in the molecules or on the sum of the particles of the constituents in a solution. So, the total mass of the solution is the sum of the masses of the individual components. And a good example of this, class, is molecular weight. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, class, the higher the molecular weight of a substance, okay, pwedeng may effect yun sa properties ng isang gamot. Let's say, for example, in terms of polarity, okay, or in terms of, solubility na lang. Okay, solubility. In terms of solubility to water, the higher the molecular weight, class, of your substance, the lesser ang chance niya maging soluble sa water. Okay? So, that's one That's one property class of our medications that we have to always consider, yung kanyang molecular weight. Okay? So molecular weight because it is the sum of the masses of the constituent atoms. So that's an example of an additive property, physical property. Okay? So that's molecular weight and how it plays a role in the physical form or in the physical characteristics of our medications. So again, class, an example of this would be in terms of water solubility. Solubility. Okay, we're in higher molecular weight na bumababa ang water solubility niya. Alright? Okay, kaya tingnan nyo, class, usually yung mga oily substances, class, are substances with very high molecular weights. Okay? Kaya tendency is, mababa talaga yung kanilang water solubility. And then lastly, class, would be constitutive. Constitutive naman, class, depends on the arrangement of the molecules. Okay? And to a lesser extent, on the number and kind of atoms within the molecule. So how are the atoms or molecules arranged within the structure? Okay? Because this can have an effect, class, on the properties, physical properties of our medication. Right? So these properties gives clues to the constitution of individual compounds and group of molecules in a system. Let's say, for example, in terms of the refraction of light, okay, is it dextrorotatory or levorotatory? Electrical properties, okay, that could have an effect, okay, on how, based on the arrangement of the atoms within the chemical, or surface and interfacial characteristics. And then another one, of course, would be the solubility of our drugs. Okay? All right, so in summary, class, these are just some of the physicochemical properties of drugs that we will be discussing. They're actually more on physical properties tayo. We'll be focusing more on physical properties. Okay, and of course, we'll be mentioning some of the chemical properties as well. Pero we'll be focusing more on the physical properties. Okay, like physical state, polarity, particle size, melting point, freezing point depression, and so on and so forth.